Hey guys, welcome back to Midnight Movie. Before we begin reviewing our movie for this week, I'd like to humbly ask for your hitting like, subscribe, and sharing this or any video that you enjoy on the channel. We are trying to compete against the algorithm, and I would really like to continue to grow the channel and build a community of people who love cinema as much as we do. So I thank you for that. This week's Midnight Movie is a film I've been hearing about really only for the past couple of years. I didn't know anything about this movie, which, your boy here loves anything from the early 80s. He loves anything science fiction or horror. So to be turned on to a film I had not yet known about was, really, really cool. Outland, 1981, directed by Peter Hyams, who those of you may have seen 2010, the year we make contact, the sequel to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Uh, a lot of people don't like that film. I think it's fantastic. It doesn't try to be 2001. Anyway, Peter Hyams directs what really is probably the most hard science fiction film I've ever seen. It stars Sean Connery, the late great Sean Connery, as Federal Marshal William O'Neill, who is basically the lawman on a mining facility on Jupiter, which is ironic because Peter Hyams did this movie that takes place on Jupiter in 1981 and then would drop 2010, the sequel to 2001, in 1984, which involves the planet Jupiter, if you've ever seen it. So it's interesting how those things kind of dovetail. Anyway, Connery is a lawman on a really tough gig on this mining facility on Jupiter. What's great about this movie is it makes it a mining facility. Those of you who know anything about mining, have had miners in your family, or yourself have mined, know it is not a glamorous vocation. It is really, really tough work. You are sent into the bowels of the earth to dig, and you do that all day long. And this movie does not try to make it a cool, shiny, super slick sort of future. In fact, the set design of this movie, which was really interesting to me, looks about 50% Blade Runner and 50% Alien from '79. And that sort of, it really feels like it could be a part of either of those worlds, which is interesting because if you watch Alien from '79, which we know was directed by Ridley Scott, and then you watch Blade Runner from 1982, also directed by Ridley Scott, there are so many tethers between those two movies that seem to indicate that Blade Runner and Alien exist in the same universe. I don't know if that's the case anymore, but at least initially, they may have shared a universe. Outland fits right in between those two movies. It's a beautiful use of sort of neon lighting, a very harsh, heavy, sort of metallic, um, industrial look that's set right within, the very sort of unforgiving, brownish rock and mountain formations of Jupiter. And yeah, these folks, they are hard workers and they live hard. They drill and they mine all day, and then when they're done, they go to the bar and they drink and they go to strip clubs and they get in fights and they get depressed and they have trouble in their marriages. And in the middle of all of it is our man, Marshall William O'Neill, played by Connery, who very much is stepping into this movie is as much a Western as it is a sci fi film. He is the lawman. It's sort of like in a literal Outland, the title of the movie. And, he does what he can. He is a man who lives by the law, and he runs into as much trouble with, people that are breaking the law, rabble rousers, as, the bureaucrats who kind of try to explain to him. It's like, why are you trying to enforce law here and there? And, why are you such a stickler? I mean, we're out in the middle of nowhere. And so there are ethical questions that are put before O'Neill. All this while he is trying to keep his wife and son happy. He and his wife are having a little bit of strain because his own son has never seen a sky. He's never been on a planet with an atmosphere. And so, the wife was like, as soon as this is over, I want to go back to Earth. And so he's trying to keep his home life happy. He's also trying to do his job. It's he's literally getting paid, and he's taking an oath to uphold the law in this formidable Outland. He stumbles across suddenly a high number of guys that are kind of losing their mind, guys that are they're getting violent with each other, they're getting violent with their women. Some of them are self-deleting, and it seems to be on the increase. And of course, O'Neill, he just has to deal with these guys. He has to take care of a few hostage situations. He's got to get some of these women out of peril. He's got to get some of these guys that seem to have gone off the deep end uh, incarcerated, hopefully alive. So there are quite a few really tense scenes in which you see this guy trying to hold a sense of order in this place, and sometimes he wins and sometimes he doesn't. So again, it feels very real. You could take most everything that is going on in this film out of this futuristic Jupiter-based mining facility in a far future where we just take shuttles to and from Earth for work and whatever. You could take it right out and you could drop it into the mid 1800s. You could put it in the mid 20th century, out in some type of a frontier or frontier town, and it would work. There are no laser guns. There are no aliens. It is again true hard science fiction with a real human drama baked into it. The perils and pitfalls that O'Neill and the people of this outpost are dealing with, again, could be a quiet, contemporary, town somewhere in Middle America of people dealing with addiction, people dealing with alcoholism, and that a lawman who is on assignment and is trying to hold it together. Not unlike maybe if you've known or had family with they're in the military, and that time away, or if they are able to stay with their family, just the stresses that are on them knowing that their loved one can be put in peril or is in peril. I really like it. The set designs for this movie really make it work. You have again, you've got O'Neill, who is played by Sean Connery. You have the doctor who assists him with figuring out. There's a mystery of why people are kind of losing their minds all of a sudden in this Outland, and this doctor played by Francis Sternhagen helps bring something to O'Neill's attention, and they're both kind of on the case of trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here. And it's really good. So you've got this investigative mystery, you have the human drama, and it's all set in this very beautiful, hard, industrial science fiction location. And again, it's almost not sci-fi. Like, the fiction of it only is that we don't have mining facilities on Jupiter. It all seems very science-based. The hazards and dangers that the miners go through, and frankly, people who are just on this outpost, they make it real. They didn't just terraform an atmosphere. There's no atmosphere. You have to wear a compressed astronaut suit or cosmonaut suit. And if anything happens, and if your line blows or something cracks, that's it. It really makes it a very real, very dangerous frontier. I don't think we're so used to watching these very polished science fiction films and stories that I don't think we understand that when we talk about something like terraforming Mars or terraforming Jupiter, for example, in Outland, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be glamorous. It's not going to be fun. You're not going to have a blue sky like you do on Earth. The gravity is going to be different. Your nutritive, your ability to nourish yourself is going to be different. You're not just going to go into a bunch of red rock and start raising cattle and farming potatoes. It's not going to happen that way. And the beauty of Outland is that it gives you that hard-edged, realistic future. That it's not glamorous. That it isn't cool and pretty, and we don't have phasers and ray guns. Literally, they're using shotguns in this film. They're using pistols, which really, for me, I love that so much because it really evokes and puts it in that sci-fi western, neo-western, future western genre, and just makes Connery. I mean, again, at this point, he's been James Bond. He's a certified badass. But then you put him on this rocky planet with a badge. You make him a marshal, and then he's running around, cocking shotguns, trying to take out bad guys and save people, save himself. Dude, yeah, the fact that I never had heard about this movie before a few years ago really, really surprised me. It's not highly reviewed. It's also not hated. I try really hard not to look at Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic anymore. I miss one of the things I miss about the old analog world, being a kid renting movies from Blockbuster in the 90s, is you just walk up and down those aisles, and if something looked cool, had cool box art, you'd grab it, you'd read the sort of the log line of the film on the back. I'm like, okay, I'll give this a shot. And you'd go home and you'd watch it, and maybe you'd like it, maybe you wouldn't, but you would use your own judgment in deciding not whether a movie was enjoyable, whether it was fun, great, just okay. And that seems incredibly hard to do these days. And there's so much group thinking going on regarding a lot of films. Films that I've gone back to watch, and I'm like, yeah, I enjoyed this as a kid, and it's still good. It's a sequel. It's not quite the same, but still a fun effort, a fun view. And I feel like Outland, it's one of those movies that maybe didn't get as much love when it came out, but like films like Blade Runner, films like Dune from 1984, I'm gonna die on that hill. These movies like Sorcerer from 1977, William Friedkin, movies that were critically panned. The Thing, John Carpenter, panned. And over time, we've come to reevaluate these movies and realize, no, actually, these were really damn good. These films sometimes fall victim to being released at the wrong time. They're up against other large films, that came out the week before or the week after, and they're sort of unseated. Not because they're bad, just the deluge of something else. They're not marketed as well. Or, the film critics of the great newspapers of the day just, they were in a mood and they just decided they wanted to screw up somebody's career, as opposed to, or they were in a bad mood or whatever it is. So it's great to see these older films that still look amazing. And Outland looks fantastic. You can't tell what is a built set on a soundstage, what is a miniature. The use of rear and front projection, practical effects. And there's practical effects in the movie. Again, there's no aliens, there's no crazy supernatural threat, but there are still real dangers, and they're illustrated, I think, really, really well with practical effects in this movie. And then, again, just it all tying together with Connery as the lead, Sternhagen as sort of a strong support. It's really, really good. What's interesting about this film is there's no damsel in distress. There's just a very strong sort of almost crime noirish mystery going on against the backdrop of, a no man's land and people really just using their wits about them. And that's one thing I think that's also really great about Outland. Connery's O'Neill and Sternhagen's doctor, these are people who, they're not spring chickens. They're both older. They've got some lines in their face. They've got gray in their hair. It's really cool to just see really competent, experienced, skilled, older people doing their thing. Going up against people who just are younger and stupid. This isn't reverse ageism or anything, but I am tired of watching films where somebody who's in their early 20s somehow possesses the wisdom of somebody who's in their 40s. I just don't buy it. I love watching a film where I see at least that aspect of real life of somebody who's an accomplished, experienced, expert, or pro in their field, in being embodied in a character, and they're just complete badasses, and that's really another fun part of it. This film for me, it's so believable. Again, in a environment that we know doesn't exist yet. We don't have mining colonies on Jupiter or anywhere else off of planet Earth. But if we did, it would not surprise me if it looked a lot like Outland. You know, whether you are someone who's just purely aesthetic and into design, this is a great movie for you. If you like really strong leads, you like a mystery, this movie is for you. If you like westerns, but you also like sci-fi, but you're not really into all the crazy alien stuff and just too much, you know, you don't necessarily go to movie theaters to watch video games like I don't, this would be a movie to check out. Yeah, Outland, 1981, directed by Peter Hyams and starring Sean Connery. I really enjoyed watching this movie. I'm so glad it came up. I watched this. It's streaming free on YouTube because I do YouTube Premium. So if you have YouTube Premium, look up Outland. You can watch it right now. But there's a lot of really great, fun, older movies that I've been watching on YouTube Premium. Again, ad free. So yeah, check it out. But let me know, what did you think of Outland? Is it everything I said it is or not? You know, let me know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video or any of the others on the channel, please hit like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next one.